Hi everyone. So today we're going to take a closer look at the notice and note signpost, contrast and contradictions. So what is contrast and contradictions? Well, it's just a distinct difference between what we expect and what we see a character doing. So for this example today, I'm going to be talking about Gru from Despicable Me. Now we know that Gru is a supervillain. So we expect him to do villainous things, right? We expect him to be kind of evil, do mean things. If we see him doing something other than that, right, this is going to be an example of contrast and contradictions. So as you're reading, or perhaps you're watching a movie, reading a book, reading a short story, watching a short film, it doesn't matter really what form the story takes, because all stories have some of these signposts in them. All right. So, what is our clue? As we're reading or watching, what is our clue that we have come across a contrast and contradiction? Well, the clue is that the character will behave or think in a way that we don't expect them to behave or think. So, for example, when Gru dresses up like a fairy princess, we don't expect this. He's a supervillain. We don't expect him to dress up as a fairy princess. So that clue, that behavior that's different than what we expect, tells us we have found an example of contrast and contradictions. Sometimes the clue will be less about a character and more about the setting. So sometimes an element of the setting is not what we expect. So, for example, the part of the movie where Gru is at the theme park. This is an unexpected setting. You don't expect to see a supervillain enjoying all that there is to do at a theme park. When we have found an example of this signpost, we have found an example of contrast and contradictions, we need to stop reading or watching and ask ourselves some questions. So, for example, why would the character act or feel this way? Why would Gru dress up in a fairy princess costume? That is not a supervillain thing to do. Or why would the setting change or include this unexpected element? So, for example, why would Gru go to a theme park? Why is he at the theme park and enjoying the rides and the games and all that? Well, and of course, we know the answer is that he loves these girls. Yes, he's a supervillain, and he wants to do dastardly things, but there's this other side of him that we as viewers are just discovering, and I think even he is just discovering, right? That he has this softer side and he loves these girls. So this is why he is behaving this unexpected way and why this unexpected setting is included in the movie. So once we've done all that, you say, okay, that's great, but why? Why bother with any of this? Well, there are lots of reasons. So identifying contrasts and contradictions are going to teach us a lot about some of the literary elements. So for example, character development. So how the character is growing and changing. Once we identify this contrast and contradiction and we've answered the questions about it, we're going to discover that Gru has a softer side, and that softer side is coming out. His character is growing and changing, right? And by the end of the movie, he's kind of a teddy bear, right? Another literary element that we can learn a little bit about is internal conflict. So the character is struggling within himself. So should he leave the girls at the theme park or should he bring them home and make a family, be a family with them? And he struggles within himself trying to make this decision. So that's an example of internal conflict. And we see this in that unexpected setting, right? That contrast and contradiction in setting. Another literary element we can learn from contrast and contradiction is theme, right? The universal idea or message that's explored in a story. So, for example, we learned that the theme in Despicable Me is love can conquer evil. Or another possible theme might be anyone's heart can be changed by love. And we couldn't learn these things if we didn't find this contrast and contradiction. If Gru wasn't doing things that were unexpected, right? Because the love is conquering his evil, or his heart is changing because of love. All right, another literary element that we can identify and learn a little bit about through contrast and contradiction is the relationship between setting and plot. So it's one thing to identify the setting and identify the plot, right, the story. But what's the relationship between the two of them? Well, here, Gru discovers that he cares about the girls, and after that, his life and, of course, the story take a turn, right? The setting changes the plot. Once Gru goes to the theme park and he discovers, oh my gosh, I think I love these little girls, his life changes from that point on. And of course, then the story does too. So that's the relationship between the setting and the plot. All right, you're going to practice this a little bit. I'm not going to ask you to go in as deep as I did with Despicable Me. I'm just going to ask you to do two questions here. So you're going to watch Presto. This is just a Disney Pixar short film. You may have already seen it before, but even if you've seen it before, I'd ask you to take the 5 minutes it takes to watch it again so it's fresh in your mind. You can click here on the picture of it and the video will start, or the link will come up and you can watch the video. And then answer these two questions. Number one, when Presto, right, the magician, when Presto is about to fall to his death, Alec, the rabbit, behaves unexpectedly. What does Alec do that contrasts his prior behavior? So how does Alec, the rabbit, act differently at this point than what we've come to expect from him? And then two, what do we learn from his contradictory behavior? All right, you can answer right on this slideshow. So you'll be able to click right in here and answer it when it's not, right now it's in present mode, so I can't, but you'll be doing it in the smaller version. You can click in there, type your answers to these two questions, and then turn it in. Google Meet with me if you have any questions, and have a wonderful day.